All right, sight readers. Today we are looking at the interval of a second. All right. Now this is getting into a little bit of music theory, but don't let that scare you. Music theory is just understanding the language of music. It's kind of like if you can pronounce Spanish. Okay, if you can read a book and you know all the rules of pronouncing Spanish correctly, and it's really not that hard, and you can pronounce all the words, but you have no idea what you're saying. Think of how much more it would mean to you when you're reading out of that book in Spanish if you understood what you were saying. That's what music theory does for you and how it helps you. And we're going to use just a little bit of that when we're sight reading here, understanding the interval of a second. Now a second means distance, okay, from one note to the next. All right, if I take a C and I go to a D, that's an interval of a second. Or a D to an E or an E to an F. It's two consecutive letters, all right? Now let me show you something else. If I look at the letter here, C and D, and if I were to put a sharp on that D, and make it D sharp, you might look at that and say, well, that's not a second anymore. That's a third. That's bigger. No, it's not. Not on paper. It's what it looks like up here, not what it feels like down here. All right? Remember that. It's what it looks like up here, not what it feels like down here. You have C and D together. Now, I can sharp the D. It is still a second. Now, it's a different kind of a second. It's called an augmented second, but it's still a second from one letter to the very next letter. Now, whenever you see that in written music, the notes will always be catty-cornered. Okay, you'll have one note, and then the next one will be off to the side because they're so close together you can't put them on top of each other like line, line, or space, space. So you can pick those out whenever you see them. And whenever you see them, what I do, I've noticed this whenever I play. I used to be a horrible sight reader, awful. Then I retrained myself. And I've kind of analyzed the way that I look at music. When I see a second, I hone in on that first note. Because you ever notice the lower note in pitch is always first. It's to the left, and then the other one is to the right, a little bit higher. I always hone in on that first note, and then the other one's a no-brainer because it's right next to it, okay? So if I see these two notes, and I see B is first, the lower note, then I know a C is right next to it. So, okay, but the first thing my mind does is go to that note on the left, and I know the other one's just right next to it, okay? And again, right here I'm giving you a taste of what's on my website. I've just added 4 more lessons to webpianoteacher.com. 4 more lessons, and they give you all my tricks and the things that I do and give you all kinds of help on playing intervals of a second here. I'm just giving you a taste of it here, but let's continue on with the lesson. So second, and then I go to F, I see the F. Then I go here, I see the D. And I need to know each note individually. I need to know, that each note, what each note is by itself without using a reference point or seeing up or down. But once I have that down, then I can move on to seeing patterns. And here's the first kind of basic pattern, is seeing the interval of a second. So B to C, F to G, D to E. Now I come down here to E to F. You see how that first note is what gets me there, and then I continue. And what I also do on the site, I give you a backing track to play with this. You can probably look at this and tell this does not sound like a song. It's going to just sound like a bunch of nothing. But we do that because we don't want you to memorize it. We don't want you to use your ear and memorize, because then you're not sight reading anymore. Okay, sight reading goes out the window. That ear kicks in, and we just quit reading the music. We don't want to do that. We want to continue to read and work that part, that musical part of ourselves that is the sight reading part. Okay? So that's why we're doing something that's not a song or very memorable. But if I play with you, listen to this. Alright, if you were to play with me, I do a backing track on the lessons on the website, on the website. But listen, I'll give you a taste of what we do on there. Ready, go! see, so I play with you, and you can practice your intervals there with the backing track, and it makes it a little more interesting, I think, to practice that. But that's the idea, is we take away the memorability to it, and we're just working on this one concept of seconds, so that whenever you get out a real piece of music and you're wanting to play something, and you see that, you go, oh, boom. You hone in on that first note, the A, you know the B is a second away, okay? And that's just how your brain can think of it. Now we're going to look at the second line there, and we're going to be looking at what's called a melodic second, all right? Now, if you think this is a lot of information, just wait till you get on the website. We go through everything. I leave no stone unturned, and I'm dedicated to getting you guys to being good sight readers. If you follow my program, that will happen for you. All right. So the interval of a second, the same thing as up here, but it's a melodic second. It's one note played and then the very next one. Now, your eyes should be able to pick those out. And I wrote eighth notes here so you could see the groups. D to E, F to G, C to B. All right, but every group is in the interval of a second. From one note to the very next letter, it's either up or down, but the idea is you hone in on that first note. F, C, G, A. You see that? I not only know the individual notes, but I see the patterns. And you may say, well, that's pretty elementary. Yes, because I want to cover everything. We have to lay a solid foundation for the rest of your reading, okay? If we don't make this solid down here, then when we get into higher things, we won't have enough support to continue. All right? So again, with a backing track, it would sound something like this. Ready, go. Makes it a little more interesting to play if you have a backing track with it. And I give backing tracks. I actually have 4 exercises that we go through extensively, and I give you the tracks for all of those. And this is all my own stuff that I've come up with that I've found that works to help people learn to sight read. So I hope you enjoy it. Check out my website. If you can't, you can still get something out of these lessons. So I hope that happens for you, and I'll talk to you guys later.